ROI is everywhere in marketing conversations today, but behind the dashboards and reports, the reality is a little bit different. Today we have Mike Lim with us, the Managing Director of InsightOut. Today he's joined with us to have a really great conversation about data and marketing in 2026. What do you think is the key difference between performance marketing and traditional media buying?
Can have a very high CPC or very high CPM and I still scale because my ROS is high. You have too much data.
Yeah.
You don't know what you should look at. Meta will tell you, I drive 10 conversions. And Google will also tell you they drive 10 conversions. But in fact, you only have 10 conversions in the real terms.
How do you think is the best way to understand attribution? Today's customer journey is just everywhere.
I don't think anyone solved the problem of attribution. We track through click-based UTM is probably the most efficient cross-channel way to attribute.
I'd say it's a very lean team. What would marketers prioritize first?
Paid media will be an easier shortcut to test all your thinking,
Right.
all your strategies, right? Yes, you need to spend money and you get the learning fast.
The best marketers in 2026 are the ones who know how to turn data into. Welcome to the Eber Show, where we sit down with leaders in the marketing space to explore how modern brands grow through loyalty, data, and long-term thinking. So in this episode today, we're diving into what marketers must measure in 2026 and how to prove what actually works. Now, ROI is everywhere in marketing conversations today, but behind the dashboards and reports, the reality is a little bit different. So that's why today we have Mike Lim with us, the Managing Director of InsightOut. Mike works closely with brands to help them identify marketing strategies of the future ahead. And today he's joined with us to have a really great conversation about data and marketing in 2026. So Mike, thank you so much for joining us today.
No problem. Thanks, Sally, for the invite. This show you have.
Yeah, for sure. So before we start, Mike, would you like to introduce InsightOut a little bit?
Yeah, sure, of course. Right. So InsightOut is about a 10-year-old company now. We are an agency. Our focus is in performance marketing. And there's a distinct difference between what we call as performance marketing and media buying. So we don't just buy media, we drive performance outcome. If an e-commerce company, then we're talking about e-commerce sales, transactions. If it's a B2B or B2C lead gen, then we're talking about qualified leads, not just leads. We operate both in Singapore and Malaysia, although we have clients also in the region that maybe they HQ somewhere in Singapore, Malaysia.
What industries do you guys usually help with?
So this is a bit interesting. We are industry agnostic, so we don't really focus on a specific industry. I mean, the primary reason, pre-COVID, I was heavy into F&B, and then we know COVID happened, what happened to the F&B. So post-COVID, I decided not to focus on a specific industry, but focus on our core methodology, which is in performance marketing. So today we serve hospitality, clients like hotels, F&B, retail, preschool education space, adult learning. We have a cybersecurity company, fintech, B2B fintech, B2C fintech companies, to name a few. So as you can see, it's very broad in terms of industry. We don't really focus on a specific industry.
How do you think performance marketing has changed over the past 5 years?
A lot. I think primarily because the understanding of performance become more matured. It used to, you are more of an advertiser, advertising, media buying. In fact, most of, I guess maybe there are still people in the market who buy media, but do not understand the performance metric or have no line of sight to performance outcome, which I think is something that we are also trying to educate the market about. But 5 years ago, there is no such word called performance marketing. There is no performance marketer. We are all media planner, media buyer, advertisers. These are the common roles. Today, you see performance marketing executive, performance marketing lead, regional performance directors, the different roles that came out. And I think it drives the thinking, or at least from an organization perspective, that performance is important in the marketing space, and they have now dedicated role for that, which then own so-called the budget and the corresponding outcomes. So I think there's a lot of role changes, a lot of industry understanding that changes over time. COVID did help accelerate that. Pre-COVID, let's say a restaurant would just do brand on social, and the more branding they get, the more walk-in they get. So there's no performance to link it up. I'm sure, 10 years ago we have reservation system, but it's not like something that you promote, something that you are very focused on. But post-COVID, a lot of even restaurant, they have website. Their website is now a key channel for their reservation. So walk-in, yes, part of it. Brand awareness, yes, but now online reservation become another key area. The rise of a platform like Cho also, kind of signify that the shift that the business owner has towards more performance outcome kind of marketing strategies.
What do you think is the key difference between performance marketing and traditional media buying?
Traditional media buy, we focus on media plan, 100,000 of spend. How do I allocate to which channel, and what is my expected awareness? We talk about, say, impression, how many clicks I'm getting. So we stop there. Right? We stop there. Right? Performance, or maybe let me add on for performance metric for media buying, traditional buying, we'll maybe think about also things like CPC, cost per click, and cost per 1,000 impressions, CPM. Right? But in performance, I can have a very high CPC or very high CPM, I still buy and I still scale because my ROS is high. My return on investment of my ad spend is high. So I can spend. So I'm not limited to cap my budget or my strategies towards a hard CPC cap or hard CPM cap. Rather, I focus on what is the maximum business value I can deliver. That's one very important shift in understanding the metric. The other one is most of media planning, when they execute in silo channel, singular channel. So if you have Meta media plan, you execute Meta to that Meta plan. Google plan, maybe LinkedIn has a different plan. But in performance, the budget move across channel.
Wow.
Depending on how the channel at that point of time react to our campaign. So we can have a starting position, but we can move budget across, and we are given the liberty to move it. And the whole concept is to drive outcomes. If it drives revenue, then I should move it rather than keep to what I plan.
Right.
But in traditional media plan, I keep to that plan. I optimize within the channel. I do not move budget across channel unless cost too high, but it's for a different reason. It go back to CPC, CPM from a cost efficiency perspective, not from a revenue outcome perspective.
What do you think is the biggest pain point for marketers today to justify that kind of ROI then?
Biggest pain point to justify the ROI. I think ROI itself, firstly, are you able to justify? Meaning, are you able to pull the right data to make sense of it, so to justify? I think the problem maybe is here, where you have too much data, you don't know what you should look at. Because of that, people are a bit confused, brand owners are confused, marketers are confused. They use what the platform gives. Like Meta will tell you, I drive 10 conversions. And Google will also tell you they drive 10 conversions. But in fact, you only have 10 conversions in the real terms. So who is speaking the truth? And of course, platform, they want to attribute most conversion to themselves. Then you spend more money with them. Nothing wrong. What platform do what they need to do. But you as a marketer has to be able to discern and interpret the data and understand why the data is as such. And then you can, once you understand, you can then plan and execute and justify the ROI.
A lot of marketers, they struggle with attribution. And in terms of performance marketing, because they are able to scale throughout so many platforms, right? How do you think is the best way to understand attribution? Because sometimes it's not very directly attributed to a single channel. Because today's customer journey is just everywhere. It's 360, right? So how do you think marketers should think about attribution today?
Yeah, I think attribution always has been an issue for years. Not even recent years, it always is the issue. I think especially since digital marketing become a thing, marketers have tried different ways to do attribution. In fact, I don't think anyone solved the problem of attribution today. But what we do see is that platform like Meta and Google, all the media platform, they are trying to introduce their own attribution model. So, for example, Meta has a 1-day click and a 7-day view. It used to be like 30-day view, and then it become 7-day view. But why 7-day? Why I can't change it? Because Meta only provide you that. You can't change that. Right? So we are a bit more led by platform in terms of how they decide and define attribution, attribution window, attribution format like click or view as an attribution. So that's one of the thing to understand. Like I said, if you want to, if you understand the data on the platform itself, you can tweak your strategy to maximize the potential of that. The problem is like what you say. cross-channel user journey,
Correct.
very complex, different platform and different attribution models and their own ways. Then it create a misalignment of a baseline of the data. So when you have this problem, which we always have, not a new thing, industry has always come up with a way. And it's not rocket science. Marketers usually know this. We track through click-based UTM is probably the most efficient cross-channel way to attribute. So, before GA4, I think 2 years back when they are launching, we are using the old Google Analytics. You actually can see a very clean way to attribute the different channel from, the first click till the conversion. I know they come from which campaign, and I know how much so-called journey. Right, this person go to my website 5 times before convert, or 10 times before convert, or 20 times. You'll be surprised. There are consumers who go through 50 times before they convert.
50 times?
Yeah. And the beauty of UTM tracking or Google Analytics attribution is that you are in control because it's all click-based. So we are not dealing with view-based, which is hardly a method that is traceable independently. I know there are different tools in the market who can validate views, but it's not transparent for the brand. They created their own proprietary technology. So it depends whether you use it at a level where you can clearly correlate the attribution. In my case, I haven't seen that before. You have a clear way to align. If I do more videos, and the view increased by 10 times, my revenue increased by 10 times. I haven't seen that kind of correlation. A click is very straightforward. I go to your website, it's one click.
Correct.
And I can count that, I can see that. And because click-based is already an established method, Google Analytics also provide different window of attribution. So you can define your own attribution window. For example, a restaurant may have a very short attribution window. If I see your restaurant, in the next 7 days, I should make a reservation. But another brand like a hotel, the booking cycle is very long, maybe 3 months, maybe 4 months. People plan ahead.
True.
The attribution window cannot be 7 days like Meta. It doesn't work. And so you need to have your own control of the attribution window. And GA4 also enable you to do that. You can set your attribution window. So those, I think, I think GA4 in general, to your question, is that's the way I believe marketers should adopt. Click-based approach, view-based secondary, primary click-based. Use GA4 as a platform is free. The question is, do you know how to use it? So that's the thing. And then the setup.
Correct.
Right, because if you just install the GA4, everything is default setting. You don't know what is your window. You don't know whether are you doing click-based only or you consider view-based. You have not set up your UTM methodology. Those are, I think, the foundation you have to set up and make sure you are tracking the clean data, the right data. Then you analyze the data.
Right. How long do you think this cycle usually takes for a marketer who's just setting this and just getting into the routine of, regular data analytics to scale?
I think initial setup should, within 1-2 weeks, you should be able to get it up to do testing and so on. Like we do for our client, every day they should be looking at GA4, but also depend on your spend. If you spend good amount of money, then you want to be clearly attributing and make sure things are moving. Your ROS is correct, is in line. But let's say you are a small company, you have a small budgets, then you can say, okay, 1 week I see it 1 time, or 2 weeks I look at it. But you need to know what you are looking at. Understanding, learning GA4 is important. I think a lot of marketers, newer marketers, the younger one, I think they just skip that. They go into Meta, Google, but without really understanding the core foundation of that data that Meta and Google give you. It's already a one-sided story.
So in terms of measuring ROI, with a leaner team or like a SME marketing team, right? What are some of the mistakes that you see marketers rely on in terms of trying to justify that marketing ROI?
I think one of, like I mentioned, the key mistake, or rather not really a mistake. If you don't know what you don't know, it's kind of not a mistake. It's more like you need to learn more, get into training and so. But believing in the platform data too much, or dependent on platform data too much. Right? Sometimes we look at Meta say, oh, we got too much revenue. Then you should pump more money. But you double your budget, suddenly your Meta revenue doesn't reflect double the revenue. Or you double your Google budget, it doesn't show double the revenue. So this is one of the mistakes I see, and people are using that as a guiding principle. Meaning, if Meta show me more revenue, I pump more budget, and so on. And at some point, either 2 things happen. You do more, you get less, or you do the same, you don't increase your budget, but the performance fluctuate.
Yeah.
Then so you then 1 week you telling your boss, great, this budget is doing its job, getting the revenue. Next week, same budget, nothing changed, but the revenue dropped. Then your boss asks you why. You're like, I didn't change anything. So you don't know why. So is the number you tell me last week accurate? Now you start to doubt the platform numbers. But without a better alternative, marketers look at what is, I guess, convenient and easier to justify. It's only when you can't justify anymore, that's when you started to think about whether you should do other things, use other method to track and start to learn more about, okay, what the platform data means. Why is it not showing the same result, week after week? Why is my performance on Meta fluctuates and so on?
So what is that gap actually?
I think convenient is one. It's not a gap. It's more like it's easy to tell your boss something that he can see on the dashboard, right? And it's no formulas. It's just plain numbers. It's easy to see. So it's easy to justify for more budgets, right? The second one is fundamental lack of understanding of how platform works. The understanding of I would think maybe a bit more the foundation of how data flows from platform to platform. Like what does view means and what does click means in the actual business context of a conversion. So I think there's a gap in understanding the metrics, the data. There's not gap, there's a ease or convenience that the platform allows you to use the data to justify to your superior, your bosses, your clients. But there will be a point where it will break. And that's the point when either your boss is questioning your capability or your agency, your client is questioning the agency capability. That's when things break. Usually, either you change headcount, you change agency, but the root problem is still there. Brands should be starting to ask, I'm not going to see my meta data. I don't want to see Google data. I want you to tell me my actual conversion and show me how you track it. So if you ask those questions, agencies or in-house team will start to think, okay, I'm not looking at the data, but boss don't need the data. How do I do that? And then you start to explore and then you'll figure out, content online today. It's not rocket science, is not new. So I think it's more like if the bosses ask the right question to the employees of the agency, they will seek the answer to that to justify. Then I think it will change the way they think about attribution, they think about actual ROAS, and it should improve the business in the long term.
What should marketers be looking for then?
I think there are different, I would say, like typical marketing funnel. Depending on where your brand is, right? If your brand is at awareness stage, it's a new brand, a startup. I haven't sold anything yet. The key is not to drive conversion. You don't have conversions. You don't have enough data to even inform Google or Meta to optimize for conversion. You should be focusing on building your brand awareness to make sure people know about you. Maybe I ask you, right? So if people know about your brand, what is the natural next step they will do?
They will look into it more, talk about it.
How? Digitally, how?
They would click into it, share, probably.
Okay. And let's say you want to buy the product. How will you approach to buy?
How would I approach buy?
So let's say you know about the brand on social, your friend is sharing it, you saw it on the IG. What's the next natural step for you to take?
Visit their website.
Correct.
Yeah.
So how do you know what website they are? Like what is the URL? Okay, you can't remember.
Brand name, probably.
Correct. You will probably Google their brand name, right? The SEO is good or the brand is unique. The brand name is unique, yet URL should surface out on the search. So the key metric at awareness level, you need to do enough awareness, but the outcome is on your brand search uptake.
Right.
And if your search volume or the brand search is going up month by month, week by week, you know that your awareness is taking effect. But if you do a lot of money on awareness, but here, no people search for your brand. Right? So you don't look at meta metric. I don't care how many impressions you get. I don't care how cheap the impression it is. It has no impact on your brand. So these are, at awareness level, I'm looking at this. Right? So marketers should be looking at, okay, if I do my awareness, brand search value should go up. I should be monitor my baseline before I start the campaign. And after that, what is my difference? So that's at awareness stage when your brand is very new, nobody know you. Or maybe you go into a new market. You're a known brand in your market, but you go into another market, you can do that as well. Search volumes by market, so you can look at the data separately. If you are in the mid-funnel, meaning you have some awareness, you have some customers, and you're trying to get more people to buy from you. So you have a proven business model, proven product. Then that's when we know that, okay, you have certain, brand search, you have a certain awareness in the market. The next thing is to make sure that people, if they know your brand, they need to know your product and services. Right. So people don't just find you because of your brand. They may not need to know your brand but they find you through the product that you're selling or the services. So for example, if someone looking for a peanut butter, they don't need to have a brand they are looking for. They're just looking for peanut butter. So if they Google for peanut butter and you are there, then that's drive what we call as a mid-funnel stage, where your product has a value in the market, has a demand in the market already. You're not trying to build something very new. Then the brand is not so important at this stage. You should have some brand awareness, but not the key driver. So all this, what we call as unbranded traffic, will be your key driver. Then for social, you're looking at those people who know you, engage with you on social media. Are they targeted by your ads to go to the website? Again, traffic, this ad campaign, they are not meant for conversion. They're meant for educating your product and services.
Right.
So you should be landing them on product pages. Maybe your, let's say you do peanut butter, then the idea is, okay, well, where do you source your peanut butter? Like the information about the product.
Right. Building trust.
Correct. Then once the people get some, and then they see a few times, they read a few times, they read blogs, your articles on that, they have some trust in your product, and they look at reviews and whatnot, and they decide to buy. They will, remember your brand. If they want to buy, they will remember your brand, they will search for your brand search. So that's another area where brand search come back again. But this time the brand search are for conversion, not for traffic, not for awareness. Another kind is that if you already have people coming to your site, read your article, read your ingredient list, blah, 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 you should be retargeting this pool for conversion. So your ad should be not about content, but about maybe promos, pricing, convenience. So it's not always about pricing also. Sometimes you provide a 1-day delivery, same day delivery. The convenience makes people buy.
Value.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then your value. So along the value point, if you are e-commerce and you offer pickup location with no delivery cost, most people, of course, free delivery is best, but we know cost is a concern. I noted some of our clients, they offer pickup as an option, and then do drive conversions. In fact, one of our clients, when we run a bigger campaign, 70%, 80% of the shipping is pickup. So people willing to save the money, go to your outlet and collect. Maybe it's on the way, maybe it's part of their journey back home or go to work. Yeah, but it triggers the conversion. It moves people over. So I think in general, different funnel level, different funnel stage where your business is at require different metric, looking at different channels, kind of so it's not like a one answer fit all kind of situation.
Understand. So all these things to prioritize, right? If let's say it's a very lean team, what would marketers prioritize first?
If very lean, get the traffic because awareness is cheap and at the end of the day may not drive value. But once people go to the website, there's a chance for them to convert already. There's a way to educate the client on the customer on the product. I would say don't focus on too organic stuff to start with. Organic takes time. You have a lean team. If you put the team to do organic things like SEO, maybe at some level PR, you can't do email marketing because you don't have customers there at the start. Paid media will be an easier shortcut to test all your thinking, all your strategies, right? Yes, you need to spend money, but you spend money and you get the learning fast. Right. So business has opportunity cost. So the longer you drag out this learning, the more cost incur, the more resourcing costs, labor costs, warehouse cost, rental,
Yeah.
So it's better that you figure out early, yes or no, and then you move on. So the leaner the team, the easier way out is to go with the paid media. I mean, of course, I would recommend people go with the agency instead of in-house hire. But if they have experience in-house and they know the people from previous working experience, then yeah, I think always I recommend companies that have in-house people more than agencies. Yeah.
So for the more established companies, right, or more established businesses within different industries, what are some ROI benchmarks that they should be looking at in 2026?
It's a good question. Usually I get benchmark question a lot, but I usually I don't believe in benchmark, to be honest. Why? A lot of published benchmark are US based or European based. They say not in this region. And so not applicable, right? Even their CPC, CTR, CPM rates are highly currency problem. If you USD convert to whatever currency we are in this region, it's not going to make sense, firstly. Secondly, we are comparing a developed market benchmark against developing market benchmark. Again, not correct. And then there's a market sizing. So US is a big market. Compared to any other market, it doesn't make sense, right? So benchmark, have two benchmark I would prefer people use. One is your own historical benchmark. If you do not have historical, you have to start somewhere. And that start somewhere is a second benchmark. In our company, when we work with clients, we introduce a platform benchmark. So what does platform benchmark mean? For example, if I go to Meta, I want to know if I run an awareness campaign, I want to run video, right? As a asset, I want to target, say, 20 to 35, females living in KL, for example. I will put this interest attribute into Meta, and Meta will provide me some data points. Again, this is free. Once the Meta provide the data point, we use those data points to set the benchmark. And you can get a CPC benchmark, a CPM benchmark, a CTR benchmark without even starting the campaign.
Oh,
This is a platform benchmark to your audience, to the campaign type you're running. A lot of people don't do this. This is a lot of work.
you find this as very, very effective.
Yes. As a starting point, you can't plug number from air and write on the board and then your team gonna work on it. You need a number that is firstly not something that you come up with, something that the platform provide. Anyway, you're running on the platform. The numbers is there for a reason. They're telling you the average of that demographic, that kind of campaign in the market is this. So it's a bit more like a industry platform market level benchmark already. You have to do this for every persona that you define for your customers, for every campaign level, awareness, traffic, conversion level, and by market. So once you have that configured, you can get the platform benchmark to set a starting benchmark. Emphasize starting. Thereafter you run your campaign, you will have your own benchmark. That is more important and more reliable. And then moving forward, your idea is to continue to grow your based on your starting position. How do you improve from there? Yeah. So I don't recommend and I don't believe in published benchmark. That is not your market, not your industry. Yeah, and I think there's also, when I say market, there's a cultural difference of people buying, clicking, behavior-wise, Western world and Asian. So that's that. So the numbers will be very different, and cost also very big difference. So we cannot use those benchmarks. I really don't recommend people use those benchmarks. I know business don't like benchmark, so I provide them platform level benchmark for their business, for their industry, for the market. And that is more closer to the actual benchmark that they should be looking at.
In very simplistic terms, what are the strongest data points that marketers should be looking at go? And also, when you were talking about generating data that they can learn from, what are the key timelines that they usually would say like it's a safe period to start referring back to their own data?
I think 6 weeks from my experience. First 2 weeks is usually because of the brand new account, brand new campaign, a lot of learning. The platform learning happens. Once you move past the learning, you have a good 6 weeks or so campaign. But timeline is a factor of budget. You can have $100 budget, but you spread 1 year. You can have $100 and spend 1 day. Platform need a certain level of budget to get in there to get enough data. So we focus on actually budget, not so too much timeline. But given enough budget, 6 weeks is a good timeline. So what is enough budget? That will be the next question. In our approach, we define something called the 1% rule. So what is the 1% rule? Basically, we take the market. So for example, let's say Singapore has a platform population of say 5 million, right? And we take a 70% haircut there. So we are looking at say 3.5 million active users on the platform. 1% of that. So 35,000, right? So you have to reach at least 35,000 before you decide your benchmark. Something along that point. So if you go to another city, then that number, that 1% change.
Wow.
Depending on how big the city is. Then the idea is that if you reach enough people, you can conclude that number is stable. CPC is stable, the CPM is stable, the CTR is stable for the target market, for your audience.
And what are some strong data points that they should be looking at then?
At the kind, okay, so let's talk about awareness. Or cost per impression is important. And the other thing that a lot of people miss looking at it is frequency. You don't want to overserve a customer in a week. Right, so the optimum we are looking at 3 to 4 per week. So 3 to 4 for every rolling 7 days. Your frequency cannot be more than 3 to 4. Sometimes they have very little budget, but the frequency is super high because their target audience is very narrow. We only target 100 people. It's overserved. You have too much budget for the 100 people. Sometimes the budget is very small and the target audience, they put 1 million. The frequency will always hover at 1. Doesn't mean it's good thing. I always share that if your target audience is too big and your budget too little, you don't know who you're targeting. Because it can be let's say your budget only can target 10 and your target size you set is 1 million. So this 10,000, imagine a square, a rectangle. 10,000, every day it moves to different 10,000. Someday it works because it's this 10,000. And you thought it works, the 1 million work. No. The next day it moved to the other 10,000, it doesn't work. And so on, right? And so you doesn't have a very methodology to govern how you run the campaign, how you define the audience sizing, how are you doing the testing, what are you learning from the asset or from the testing. I think those are the key things that people don't really do and look at. Yeah, so CPM, because of cost, frequency, not to overserve. At the awareness stage, at the traffic, at the mid funnel stage, very straightforward. CTR performance, CPC is not so important. We are looking at what's a good campaign that can drive me more efficient traffic. And the other thing that people don't really think about when they drive traffic is they don't look at the website performance metric. You can drive a lot of bot traffic, a lot of junk traffic, and there's no point. You have to look at whether the traffic that you are driven, are they bouncing? Do they engage? What's the stay time on site? How many pages do they view? Do they add to cart? Do they check out the product pages? Right, so these are the other details people should be looking at on top of the CTR metric. If you look at conversion, it's very straightforward. Your ROS matters. How much money you put in, how much revenue you get. One of the things that people don't quite get to is that sometimes when you run a campaign on Meta, it has a very low ROS. But you see your revenue growing. But Meta doesn't show that return because your sales cycle exceed their attribution window, going back to the discussion just now. So if the sales cycle exceed the attribution window, technically Meta don't attribute, right? So for long sales cycle business, Meta revenue actually is disadvantage to you. You actually have more revenue that attributed, but it's not tracked. So we want to look at things like checkouts. So Meta numbers like initial checkout to see whether does people initiate the checkout process, start the buying behavior but didn't complete, and then they complete 1 month later. Then that completion, you then have to refer to GA4 to track the conversion data for the campaign.
Wow. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense where you were talking about how marketers today are really just going across platforms and not just relying on a single platform to, tell them where the attribution is.
Yeah, I think it's an important knowledge for people to understand. The lack of exposure or understanding of that usually leads to inefficient campaign, which cannot be explained. And bosses always want the why. I mean, most bosses are happy to give more budgets if you can give them more revenue. I mean, it makes business sense. The only way you can be sure is that you know what you're doing, you know what data you're looking, and the data is accurate and correct. So those fundamentals are important. Without those, we are just spending money. I think bigger companies, like let's say you talk about Nike, Adidas, that kind of big brands, they don't really need attribution because they sell through distribution. So to them, brand awareness is more important, branding is more important, but they are very big and established company, multinational company, 20, 30 years in the market, maybe even longer. But you look at typical SME, they don't have that horizon. Some have, but most doesn't have. It's a very fast conversion cycle kind of a thinking. So you have to deliver performance in a very short period of time, which you can if you know what you're doing and what you're looking at. Yeah.
Wow. Thanks for sharing, Mike.
No problem.
Yeah. I've got one last question for you before we end.
Okay.
This is our handlebar question for the Eber Show. So your question would be, the best marketers in 2026 are the ones who know how to turn data into
insights. Because insights should power everything from now on. I mean, even AI platform today, they can't give you very good insights. They can give you very good instructions, how to do, what to do. But insights is something that is, you need experience to show. You need enough data, historical data, seasonality data, pricing data, product data. If you have all those, I think, and you are able to generate good insights, it will power your execution, your strategy, your media planning. Without the insights, we are always sitting in the room and say, okay, let's start the marketing plan, and we just draw something on the board, and then we just start. And then the cycle will repeat. So I would think that the next generation of marketers be able to interpret data, and then turn it into insights that's maybe actionable insights. So it should be the way. Then I think it will help in the long run for the marketers in their career.
Yeah.
And also in the entire industry as well.
Well, I agree.
Cool.
Thank you so much for sharing,
No
Mike.
problem.
And thank you so much for watching for today's episode on what marketers must measure in 2026 and how to prove what actually works. So thank you again, Mike, for joining us. If you're interested, do check out InsightOut. We will link everything in the link section above or below. Thank you so much for watching and stay tuned for the next episode.